Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 5, and my name is Jay Oza, and I'm the host of this show. And today we have Julie Finkelstein and Latesh Bala Krishna. Sorry about that. Joining us as participants. So for those who are watching this for the first time, let me just kind of give you an overview of what we do with this show, Speech Talk Live. This is a show that we have created where people can come to improve their public speaking skills, but also to support others who want feedback or need some sort of help in improving their public speaking. So the other objective also is to share public speeches that you have recorded that you're going to be giving, like Latesh did a few weeks ago, and today I'm going to be doing that with one of the speeches that I want some feedback from others. So that's the purpose of the show. We hope you get something out of it. And the way that we do the show is we have 3 segments. The first segment, we take a particular issue that we want to discuss. These are things like fear of public speaking, how to give or receive feedback. Today we're going to focus on the first 7 seconds. As you saw that I just walked in, and I don't know if that was 7 seconds, but you're already starting to make some judgment based on that. And we're going to discuss that because that first 7 segments are very important, and you could lose your audience and may never get them back again. That first impression is extremely important. The second segment, I have one of my speeches that I want feedback on. And this was a speech that I did for the Coursera's course, on-demand course on Introduction to Public Speaking. And this is the last speech, persuasive speech. And my topic was that today, to get a job, if you want to get a job working for a good company, you have to pitch an idea. So that's the main topic of my speech that I want feedback. And on the third segment, we take a public speech given by a famous person and see what we can learn from that. And today, I think I picked a real good one. Jack Ma, who is the chairman of Alibaba. I believe the company is valued at more than $280 billion, and he himself is worth over $25 billion. And I think some of the things that he does in this speech we can learn a lot from. So those are the 3 segments. At this point, I would like Julie and Latesh to introduce themselves, and then we can get to segment number 1. Julie?
Hey, good morning, Letitia and Jay. Thank you for holding this program. It's very exciting to be on air like this. I am currently in Stanford. In May, I moved from Chicago to Stanford, so life is pretty chaotic, and we're not in our home. We're just renting. I am, along with Jay, a mentor in the Coursera public speaking class, and my current passion is reaching out and creating a global community, and I'm discovering how important communication is. And this public speaking forum for me provide me guidelines and opportunities to practice in a global world. I mean, with global people, with people from around the globe, and so to be able to actually meet real people and talk with real people is very exciting for me. I run a Google community called Introduction to Public Speaking, and you can Google that and join me. And a lot of the things I do are very similar to Jay, but I focus on the beginning level speakers and how to help people just to get into the stream. And that's what I do. Thank you.
Yeah, Latesh?
Thanks, Jay. Hi, Julie. Hi, Jay. Uh, so I'm based out from India, and I work in the IT industry, that is the information technology industry. I'm involved currently along with my regular day-to-day activities in giving some trainings and programs and for the team. So my intention for joining this particular course, and when I actually entered the first module with the stage gates introduction, so I got a lot of really good feedback from the team, from the moderators, and because of that, and also giving me a platform to improve upon my skills with respect to my talking skills, my communication skills, and reaching out to a wider audience. So that's like a real good platform for me to improve my skills in public speaking. So that's the reason that, and I'm really enjoying this activity weekly when I join in, even though it is a Friday, but I really enjoy this 1 hour that I spend with the team here. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thanks a lot, Litesh. As usual, I always forget to leave out some stuff, so I learned from. So this is like you have to keep improving. So what I forgot to mention is that I'm based out of Hazlet, New Jersey. And if you're ever in New Jersey, I mean, New Jersey has a joke that you give the people the exit number. So on Garden State Parkway, I'm off exit 117. So all you need to know if you ever want to come see me, just get off exit 117 and give me a call, and you're like probably a minute away, okay? So Latish, if you're ever in US and you get on Parkway, Garden State Parkway, just get off exit 117, and you're very close to where I live. Anyway, enough of. I mean, the purpose of this show is to have fun, okay? So I just want to make sure that this is for people who are watching this. This is a fun thing because public speaking is a scary thing, and this is a no fear zone, okay? We want to make this a no fear zone, so if you have any kind of fear giving speeches, then this is the place you want to come on to get that fear out of your system when it comes to talking to people. And we make it very easy for you to talk the way you want to talk, like you are talking to a friend. So even though you may not know me, let's become friends by coming on to the show. So at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause, and then I will introduce the first segment. Okay, so I will just take a brief pause, okay? Okay, this is Jay Oza, the host of Speech Talk Live. Today we're doing episode number 5, and this is segment number 1. And in this segment, we want to talk about the first 7 seconds of a speech. Now, when a lot of people are learning public speaking, or even experts, don't realize the importance of the first 7 seconds. Just think about it. Your audience is waiting to hear from you. Your natural tendency is you have prepared, you have your material. Like, for example, I'm going to use Litesh as an example. He wants to give a talk on stage gates. He's been preparing for a week, and he's all amped up to go in and just give them that information. The thing is, the audience at this point needs to be brought into it incrementally, the way they can process it. The brain, that's how the brain works. The brain doesn't say, oh, okay, I'll understand. I can just take everything that's in Latesh's brain about stage gates, and it'll just come to me like that. It comes in incrementally and slowly. And the way it happens is the first thing they're going to see is you. So when you come in, so I'm just going to try to demonstrate it, and I'm not sure if I'm, so let's say you're giving a speech, you come in, you want to kind of ease your way into it. And it's not like you have to count like, 1001, 1002. I mean, that could be kind of silly. But figure out that first 7 seconds, how you're going to appear on the stage or whatever, and take a slow step and just like, act like you really want to be there, because people want to know, like, does Jay really want to give this speech? And without you saying a single word, you have to show them that you have something valuable to say to them. And also that initial delay, creates the anticipation by the audience, like when is he going to start? What is he going to say? Because they're like, you want to grab their attention, because the first thing that comes out of your mouth is going to be very important if you have created that anticipation for that first 7 seconds or 6 seconds. So that first 6 seconds are very important in how you are dressed, how you appear on the stage, and what does your facial gestures look like? Are you happy? Are you smiling? Do you want to be there? And audience is picking all that up, and that's how they're making that initial impression before you even say a single word. And I'll tell you a little thing that I watched, and I can send you the links, and I thought it was pretty funny. There was this famous comedian named Andy Kaufman. I don't know if you know about him. He was a comedian in the 70s. He used to be on a popular TV comedy show called The Taxi. And unfortunately, he died very early from lung cancer. But there's a movie called Man on the Moon. I think that's available to see. You can see it on YouTube. I just saw it last weekend. And in one particular scene, he goes to see a yogi, and the yogi is doing his talk, and then at the end, actually nobody was supposed to ask a question, but he raises his hand and said, he asked the yogi, is there a secret to being funny? And the yogi says, silence. Okay, so then he has the skit. And this is real. You can watch the actor Jim Carrey, who plays Andy Kaufman, and the real Andy Kaufman on YouTube. You can do a search, and I'll include the links. And he comes on the stage, and I'll try to do this. It's kind of really funny. You should see. So he comes on, and the audience is all waiting, and he comes on, and there is a record player next to him. And he just starts, he just doesn't do anything. He's just like looking like, the audience is like, what is he going to do next? What is he going to do? Is he going to tell a joke? You could see that they're feeling really uncomfortable. And then he doesn't want to torture them anymore, so he starts the record player and he plays this music. The music he's playing is the theme from the cartoon Mighty Mouse. Okay, I don't know. It's really funny. You should watch that. And in one particular scene, the Mighty Mouse is this mouse who saves the world. Okay, that's the cartoon. And in one scene where Mighty Mouse says, it goes like, here I am, like he's acting out the part, here I am, and that's all he does. He doesn't say anything, and that's it, and he's done. And the audience is just hysterical. This was so funny. And the thing I always like about that is that here he did a whole comedy skit without saying a single word. So I thought that that first 7 seconds, getting back to it, are very important in how you do it. And if you need to understand that better, that particular skit can really demonstrate the importance of silence and not say anything. So you guys have any comments? So let me just say one more thing before I turn it over to you. What you do when you give a speech? How do you handle that first 7 seconds? Do you even think much about it? There's a lot of research that supports this, and one of the famous research that people always cite, and in fact I'll show 2 books here. There was a book written by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, and here he talks about how people make a quick decision, and one of the key research that that's based on is a research done by this psychologist or social psychologist named Nalini Ambady. She did a lot of that research when she was a professor at Tufts University. Unfortunately, Nalini died a few years ago from cancer, so at a very young age, and that's pretty sad. But this research really lives on. You'll come across any article, you'll always see her name being mentioned, Nalini Ambady. And what she came up with this concept called thin slicing. And she did a lot of research, and what she found was, in one particular research, she would have show students a 10-second video of a professor and ask the students to rate the professor, whether the professor was likable, trustworthy, etc. And then those same professors, people who attended the class, would be asked the same to do the survey. What do you think of the professor now that you've taken the course? And what she found was the people who made their judgment on the 10 seconds were essentially same as the people who sat through the entire lecture. And that thin slicing is that we can make decisions very quickly, and most of the time what that 10-second tells us is going to be very accurate, and sometimes even more accurate than having more information. So more information doesn't help you get closer to the actual picture. That 10 seconds sometimes is sufficient. So the reason I mention that is that same thing is happening when you're giving a speech. That the judgment that people are making, whether your speech is going to be interesting or boring, can be decided very quickly without you saying a single word. So that's why I wanted to talk about the importance of the first 7 seconds. So at this point, let me turn it over to you guys and see what you have to say, and what do you think of this? Have you given much thought to this, and how would you handle the first 7 seconds? Julie, you want to tell us what you think?
Jay, yeah, thank you. First of all, I found that your reading was very interesting. It was 3 suggestions by Roger Eilers. First one is high energy, and the second one is have an open and receptive and vulnerable face. And the third one is give your message a mission. So don't just blah, blah, blah. I thought they were very useful ideas. And I'll go back into it if we have more time. The second point I want to make is in the realm of 7 seconds, actually people make decisions in a sub-second. And Marshall McLuhan, who was a social media person, termed this phrase, the media is the message, meaning that everything unconscious that's the audience is perceiving is formulating that message. And in Fritz Perls, he talks about that 99% of your personal reality is in the background. What's conscious is 1% of your total reality. So this book that I'm reading on Saturday mornings, The Search Inside Yourself, talks about that when people who meditate for a while, that they can slow down their perception, and they can actually be able to perceive things in 1/50th of a second. And that's actually how quickly our unconscious perceive. And by meditating, you gain control of that. Personally, I never thought about this until this reading that you suggested and this topic, so I really appreciate that. I think the first thing I'm going to do coming from here is I'm just going to take a deep breath and slow down and make sure I always remember what is my agenda, what is my theme, what is my message, and so that I can always circle around that. So that's what I think. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, those are. Yeah, the book that Julie was mentioning is this one. This is the one I always go back to. This is a book by Roger Ailes. You Are the Message, and I highly recommend this book. The reason is that Roger Ailes is probably the person who knows more about communication than anybody that I know of. He advised, let's see, 3 presidents: Nixon, Reagan, and Senior Bush, okay, and also Mayor Giuliani. And then he went on to start MSNBC, and now he's the chairman of Fox News, and they have the highest rating. So he knows. This is one person who probably knows more about communication than probably anybody in the world, and he has a record to back it up. You may not like his politics, but the fact is he knows a lot about communication, and there's a lot of good information in this book. The book is a little dated, but still it's valid. Communication is still communication. The medium changes. Latesh, you have anything to add to this? When you give your stage gate talk, that first 7 seconds or 6 seconds, you don't have to count, are going to be very important. Have you given much thought on what you're going to do in those first 6 seconds, and how were you rehearsing that?
Hi, thanks, Jay. Yeah, I think the first few seconds when we are going to be on the stage and when we are going to face the audience is very critical. And let me take a step back, like going from a kind of a meeting setup to I can actually draw an analogy with the first meeting that happens between two strangers. Let me actually take again a step back, and if it is something like in India, we have this concept of arranged marriage. So in an arranged marriage, when the guy goes for seeing the girl at their girl's house, normally the first instance of seeing each other, I think I don't know how it happens, but in the first few seconds itself, the make or break, or whether it is a fit or not a fit. So that kind of decision immediately is made in the mind. So they say there is a click that happens, some kind of a connect that happens. The first instance when you see the other person, whether she is the one for you. So it's like Julie mentioned. It might not take even a few seconds. It might be in a fraction of a second that it happens. So in the same way, I think it happens very unconsciously, or it happens like some kind of connect happens with the other person. The same way when we are going back to the setup wherein we are going to connect with the audience when you are doing a talk. The first instance where the audience looks at you, maybe the physical appearance, your body language, your energy levels, etc. All this comes up. So I think first few seconds is very important for giving a face or giving an impression or making an impact to what it's like a precursor. You're building up a suspense before the audience jumps in and understands what exactly you are going to talk about. And yeah, I think this write-up which Jay has sent across was very useful to structure the thinking around that.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you make a very good point. This first 7 seconds is not just for speaking. It applies to everything, right? And when you talk about arranged marriage, I could relate to that. I remember when I was young, my mom took me to India to see one girl. And I think this girl took a look at me and pretty much decided that I was just not the right person for her. Thank God. I hope my wife is not watching this, but anyway. And I had no idea. I thought like we hit it off. Next day I get a call from somebody who brokered this that they don't think you're the right person for her. And the father was very sad that, because he liked me. Unfortunately, I can't marry him. I said, you know what? It's your daughter that has to make this decision. He was so sad that my daughter just didn't think that, that this was going to work out. And I said, but I didn't even say anything to her. But I was kind of like really upset because, I said, wait a second, I didn't even get a chance to say anything. We didn't even talk. How could she make a decision? But evidently she did. And, the rest is history. So anyway, keep this between us, okay? I don't want this to go out. Anyway, let's have any closing thoughts on it. There's a lot to discuss here. And if there is interest, we could even come back and discuss this further. But just be aware that that first 6 seconds or 7 seconds in anything, whether you're entering a room, whether you're giving a speech, you have to mentally prepare yourself on how the audience is perceiving you. And it also helps, like on this Speech Talk Live, or when you're recording a speech, don't say anything for the first few seconds. Just let the audience see you standing, see how you look, how they can make that first impression is very important, and you want to get a feedback on what actually feedback you're getting of how they perceive you in that first 6 or 7 seconds. So any closing thoughts, Julie, before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, Jay, thanks. I think this is a great topic, and I would just think most of us have fear and anxiety in the first 7 seconds. So one thing we could do is do those power poses and somehow be aware of what fear looks like on our face and drop the fear and replace it with excitement and enthusiasm. I think that would be a great practice for many of us. Thanks.
Yeah. Latish, any closing thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's all about energy and building up that suspense. That's how actually you build it.
Yeah, no, those are good. And again, I think, like I said, there could be more discussed on this, but at this point, we're going to close out this session and move to the next segment. So I'm going to take a quick pause here and then introduce the next segment, okay? Hello, this is Jay Oza, host of Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 5, and we're moving to segment number 2. And in this segment, we are going to review a speech and give feedback to the speaker. And as it happens, the speaker is me. So I'm going to get feedback on the speech that I recorded that I sent to the community to take a look at and give me some feedback. But this is different. This is where I'm going to get live feedback. And what this means is that I get to drive the process because it's the feedback that I am looking for. So at this point, Julie's going to be facilitating this, so I'm going to turn it over to Julie and introduce the segment a little bit more, and then Julie will come back to me, and I will then describe it. So Julie, at this point, I'm going to turn this over to you. Yeah.
Okay, Jay, thank you. My muting decided I need to mute several times. So yes, the second segment is the peer feedback and peer evaluation support system. We generally take a student speech, so someone that's not professional, and we try to provide constructive support and feedback. So criticisms need to have an alternative suggestion, and also always remember clarity and compassion. You know, if you're giving people feedback, be clear and be compassionate and be constructive. So Jay's going to tell us what the speech is about, what kind of feedback he would like, and then Letitia and I will participate in providing feedback. Okay, thank you. Jay, it's yours.
Yeah, Julie, thank you very much. So let me give you the context of the speech so you have some background of the speech that I recorded. So the speech that I recorded, it's titled How to Get a Good Job at a Good Company. And this is sort of relevant because currently there are a lot of people out there who have jobs, but they're not happy where they are. And they would like to work for a good company. And I define what a good company is like, you know, Google seems to be at the top of the list. Google, Airbnb, Uber, Facebook, Apple. These are typically the marquee companies that people, all these young people and everybody would like to go work for. And, you know, these are outstanding companies. They have so much to offer, but it's not that easy to get into this company. So I came across this story, and then I went and looked at this woman's resume. Her name is Nina Mofle, and what she did was really interesting, I thought. It was really clever. She essentially created a business plan for Airbnb, where she's showing them the opportunity for Airbnb to grow in the Middle East regions, especially like Dubai, Kuwait, Qatar, all of these regions that she had identified. So when I looked at that, I said, wow, this lady or this woman is actually showing them the opportunity. She's not just saying, hire me. She's actually showing them, look, here's the opportunity. If you want to be in this area, then who's the right person who can get you there, or at least who has a knowledge of it? I've already done this for you. And it was very impressive, and her whole resume was laid out like the Airbnb website. So I thought that this was something that others need to know about, because there are a lot of people out there that are struggling, and going through this job can be very frustrating and demoralizing. So I wanted to do a speech on this, and the way I organized the speech was to show what the problem was, because this was done for the Coursera course, so it had ill, blame, cure, and call to action. So I think I covered all of that, but you don't need to provide that feedback. Just I want the overall impression of it, because in real life nobody has the rubric like that. But it's up to you. I put a lot of effort on this speech. Okay, so this was not a speech that I can say I did it on one take. This was probably 3 or 4 takes. The one that you're seeing was probably my 3rd or 4th take. I spent quite a bit of time working on it. And the reason I want feedback is because at this point, I've reached a point where let's say I'm already 80, 90% there. For me to record it again, I'm not sure how much more I can make it better unless I get some feedback. So that's the reason I wanted feedback, because you reach a point where you can't see any more ways to improve it. I mean, there could be incremental things here and there, but not any more that's obvious to me. So with you viewing it, you might see certain things, because you're the audience, you're seeing it for the first time. You might see certain things that I'm not seeing it anymore. So I need that feedback. As far as the speech is concerned, the things I think I did well is I think my speech was pretty well organized. If I go through it, I've watched it again. I think my content was pretty relevant. I took a lot of risks in this speech. If you notice that my vocal variety was quite a bit there. Some of it might come a little exaggerated. That's my impression. But I had to take that risk, because if you're not doing it here, then why would you do it in a real when you're giving it in front of a live audience? So I wanted to be take some risk, not be boring, make it interesting for the audience. When they're watching it, they want to see a performance. I think I was kind of giving a little bit of a performance there. I just didn't want to give the content, because otherwise I'm not adding any value to it. I think some of the things that could have been improved, I would say, I think I might have gone a little bit too long, and I'll let you guys decide whether it was too long, whether some of those points could have been made much more crisply. I don't know. I see that it could have been shorter, but I'll leave it up to you guys whether I went on with some of the points too much or not, whether it could have been made a little shorter. At this point, I'm going to stop and let you guys give me your initial feedback, and then I have some questions. Okay? Julie, you want to go first?
No, I'm facilitating, so I'm going to let Latish go first, if Latish like to.
Yeah. Hi, Jay. Hi. So I really like the energy levels which you had shown up in that in the introduction, and the way the entire conversation around a very interesting topic, because that is something that most of us are doing in our day-to-day activities, applying for a job and seeing that how it goes off. So that way, it is very much relevant, very well-connected subject, and you had a excellent story to support it, and that was like quite evident from the way that she was able to build that site and to create that kind of organized flow of thoughts which are happening from your side to introduce the way that she went ahead and was able to market herself to the organization ABB. She was recruited because the CEO had a chance to look at that resume. Probably from the persuasion angle, I think the force with which you were definitely pushing that concept was definitely there. But if I look at the way if the audience would be persuaded to follow such kind of an innovative method, probably on that aspect we could have introduced few more concepts, or maybe a few more innovative thoughts to that particular process of applying for jobs. But this is definitely one different way of putting across an innovative method. But yeah, that was on the improvement side. So the persuasion with respect to the objectives, and making sure that the audience is able to probably pull that concept, and they're able to use a similar kind of innovative method for applying jobs. Probably that part may need some more content or some more evidences to support some innovative usage of resumes. But on the positive side, there was a lot of energy, a lot of I think I was connected during the entire flow of the thought. The story was there to give that evidence. So it was well organized. Yeah.
All right, Latish. Thanks a lot. That was a good feedback. Julie. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. You're facilitating.
Yeah, I'm facilitating. Thank you, Latish. I really like what you said about needing more information, and that the topic was relevant and connected, and that you found the energy and the story to give evidence are very positive. So, Jay, thank you for letting me as a facilitator, and I know we're working it through, so that's great. So one of the things I did was I agree with Latish that this is a very relevant topic, and I or anybody I talking to who is looking to do something in their lives, I would highly recommend to it, and I would recommend that they jump to it, because I think it's very, as Latish says, innovative idea. And I like your energy level. It does feel like you are performing, but I like that because I want to, performing, even though I'm not paying money, my life is precious, and if I'm going to give you 15 minutes of my time, I want to be stimulated. So I think that was great. And I agree with Jay that the argument was relevant, and the flow was excellent. And your body language was great. I like the hand motions. They were not distracting at all. I would like a little bit more movement, like pacing back and forth when you're making pace, what professor said, pace one direction to make one point and pace the other direction. In terms of constructive feedback, it's something that you already know about yourself, is that I time your speech. And I found that when things got really hot, it was about 10 minutes already into the speech. So I feel like, in a sense, you're preaching to the choir. You spend 10 minutes to justify why it's important to make a pitch. The minute I'm on that show, when I'm watching you, I'm sold, because otherwise I won't be there. So I would recommend that just, like fake it till you make it kind of thing, is allocate. And I don't do it as well as I should, so, I need to practice that too. It's 20% of the time for intro, 20%, actually 10 to 20% time for intro, 10 to 20% of the time for conclusion. And the rest is like point 1 is 10 to 20%, point 2 is 10 to 20%, and point 3 is 10 to 20%, something in that ballpark. And when you practice, make it like a sudden death. When that time is up, you gotta go, I really like the 5 things that you said she did well. She showed where the problem is. She identified an opportunity, and she showed how this opportunity can be leveraged, and how she profiled herself upon that. Now, she's not applying for a job, she's doing a job. I would like to hear more about that, because that is, to me, that's when I got excited, and to me, that's the meat of the program. Finally, one more thing is I really like your term of the promised land, so perhaps you can link me right to that by saying this is how you can get to the promised land. And let me tell you how it will be. Connect that, and at the end, recap that as the step toward the promised land. I may be giving you too much feedback. If so, please let me know. I would like to know that.
Yeah, no, those are excellent feedback, Julie. So this feedback is very important and helpful to me, because there's some background noise I'm getting.
Yeah, I just muted. Sorry. Oh, I muted. Okay.
Oh, no, muted again. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So this is a helpful feedback. So this is where the speech is. I would say that at this point, based on the number of iteration, this is the feedback that I would want before I go and give it live. Okay, so that's where this speech is. This is not a speech where I'm at a point where I need to go through more iteration. I think based on the feedback I'm getting, you've gotten the gist of what the speech is about. There are certain things that you're saying, that certain elements you want to think about because the audience may receive it better. That's the feedback I think I'm getting from you. That's helpful because this is where this is where you want to this is where this program can be very helpful. Before you're going to go live, you want that last feedback from the audience in a safe way, so that you can connect with the audience better if you were to give it live. So that is very helpful. The one thing I will point out is that this speech was 14 minutes, which is typically much longer than you would have on a Coursera. They're like 7 to 10 minutes. There is a lot here in this speech, and that's one thing I was thinking of. Should I shorten it to 10 minutes? But I made it longer because this speech is not for the Coursera course technically, even though I gave it there. A lot of people commented that it was too long. This would be the speech that I would be giving, like a TED Talk, that let's say somebody invited me, where I could stretch it out a little bit longer, perhaps to maybe 18 to 20 minutes, but no more than 20 minutes. I think that's the limit that Ronald Reagan always used, that don't speak more than 20 minutes. So if there are certain points that you think, like Latesh said, I needed to more about some other innovative ways, I didn't want to include other innovative ways because then the focus is kind of starts shifting to too many things. So I wanted to keep the focus on this one particular method. Otherwise, the speech is all over the map. So that's one of the choice that I made. I think the feedback Latesh was giving me, that he wanted to see some more innovative methods. And I decided not to include that because then the focus would not be there. So those are choice things that I'm just explaining why I did it that way. Not saying it's right or wrong. It seems like the feedback I'm getting is that if somebody were to listen to this, the main takeaway was that pitching is an effective way, or one way, that can help you get a job, because you're really getting to the heart of the matter, which is you're showing growth to the company. So I think based on the feedback, if I'm understanding it correct, that's what I'm hearing. So at this point, let's go around and close out. Julie, we can close out. So thank you again for all the feedback. If there are any closing thoughts you have on it, and I noted down all the points that you made, and some of the other ones are choice decisions that I need to think about if I were to give it live, whether I need to add more or take away some more things. And those are, I think, choices that we all have to make when we're giving speeches. So again, thank you very much for your very constructive feedback here.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Latish, would you like to have a couple closing thoughts or sentences?
I think Jay, yes, really evolved. Like I haven't seen Jay giving speeches earlier, but definitely the impact that he is trying to give through the talk was there, and it is very much felt during the entire conversation that he is trying to draw the point across. So I think it was quite a powerful persuasion that he has pitched in for.
Okay, thanks, Latish. Yeah, Jay, I thank you. I think I wasn't clear, and I don't remember what the title of your speech is, but I felt like I was expecting on how to give a pitch to get a job, and I think the title would be more clear to me if the title was something like why you need to give a pitch to get a job versus a resume. So that's my closing thought on that. Thank you, and I'll turn the segment over to you.
Right. Julie, if you can send that to me by email, that would be helpful. Like, because remember, this review is still continuous, right? This is just, we're doing a live segment right now. But if there are any thoughts that you or Latesh come up with, keep sending it to me, okay? Because that's what I do when I do these shows, because we only have limited amount of time. Okay, so at this point I'm going to take a brief pause and then introduce the third segment. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, this is Jay Oza. Welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 5, segment number 3. In this segment, what we do is we review a speech given by a famous person and see what we can learn from it, see how they did it, what did they do well, what they could have done better. As public speaking goes, nobody's perfect. Even the great speakers who give a lot of speeches also need to keep improving too, because the audience can be different all the time, right? And you need to connect with them. And today, the speech that I have picked is the one that Jack Ma, who is the chairman of Alibaba. It's a big e-commerce company like Amazon in China. I think they get close to 100 million users who use their system or their program website a day to do transactions, small businesses. And this particular format is an interview format. And I included this because a lot of times we think of speeches as something formal, where you're just in front of an audience and giving it. But sometimes I think an interview format are just as good, because you are addressing the audience, and then there is a journalist or interviewer who's asking you the question. So it essentially turns into short impromptus. And this impromptu that we have all learned, or we're still continuing, is a very important method of giving a speech. An impromptu is an interview format, and what we're doing is like an impromptu, right? When I'm talking right now, it's a short impromptu. Then I'll ask you, give me an impromptu. You're going to engage in an impromptu speech when I turn it over to you, based on what is your feedback on how Jack Ma did. So this is a good format to learn. Let me just kind of give you my overall impression of Jack Ma. Jack Ma is a great speaker. Let's not. And the thing I like about Jack Ma that is something we should all learn. I've seen Jack Ma give quite a few talks, and one thing I noticed is that he's pretty consistent. Whether he's giving a formal speech or whether he's in an interview format, it doesn't seem like there are any differences. So that gap is really pretty much non-existent. That, when somebody gives a formal speech, they sound kind of real formal, and then when they're giving, when they're in an interview format, they're much more relaxed. I don't notice that with Jack Ma. He's relaxed no matter what the format is, and that's something we need to learn, that he's having that conversation. Here he's having a conversation with the journalist and also the audience that's there at Davos. I think that's where this was done. And when he's giving a formal speech, he's also having a conversation. Of course, in that, there's no journalist. He has to kind of lead the audience in the direction that he wants them to go. So I think he does that really well. And if you'll notice it, he makes quite a few mistakes in the speech, but it doesn't matter actually, because he is very honest. He has, again, I think Latesh mentioned, his energy level is very high. He's being very transparent, and the interesting thing about this speech is this is a very high stakes speech for him. He's a chairman of a big company that's valued at over $280 billion. Around that much. He has many objectives here, and it's one of his objectives is he has to make sure that he doesn't say anything that can tick off the shareholders, right, the investor community. So he has to be careful there. Second is he has a huge customer base in China, of small businesses. So he has to be careful on what he says, because he doesn't want to give out too much information that is not ready to be given out. At the same time, he has to be very careful. Then he has his employees to worry about. Then he has to worry about the government of China, that he doesn't say something that's going to, take them off. So it's a very high-stakes speech here. And then also a potential investors or potential customers in other countries. So there's a lot going on, but all of that is kind of not even there. Like, you don't see him being stiff about anything. He's pretty relaxed, and not even realizing that every word I say, I'm taking a risk. And you don't see that. He's just talking to you like he's talking to each one of us individually. And I think that's what makes Jack Ma such an effective speaker. And that's what I like about his communication style. At this point, I'll turn it over to you guys. See what you had to say about Jack Ma's performance or his public speaking style. Julie, you want to go next? We cannot see you, Julie. Okay, I'll go to Latesh. You wanna go next?
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Yes. Uh, Definitely. Yeah. Am I on? Yeah. So Jack comes across as a very effective speaker, and I guess the confidence and the charisma that he exhibits is very much relevant when we see him there at speaking in that occasion of the economic forum at Davos. So the kind of punchlines that he put across are like terrific, and I think he was bang on, very talk that he was giving, but it was like very much relevant to what was asked of him. And one of the lines which I really liked was like, it was about, they call me crazy Jack, but we are crazy, but we are not stupid. I mean, that kind of a statement, like there was a bit of humor also. He had added bits and pieces of humor wherever necessary to make the conversation interesting. It's not that as if he needed to put it, but the way he actually, because the concept of how he has grown his business from in a period of 15 years, he has grown it from I think around 18 employees to somewhere around 35,000 employees presently, which is like a huge growth. And looking at the way his business is operating, that too in a very closed environment, like in China, how the government is like very strict about how business transactions happen, etc. So he has been phenomenal, in making sure that he grows even in such kind of a scenario. So that line which he says that if there is something that states like it is impossible, I think he has done it and shown that nothing is possible. So that's really something inspiring. And I was looking forward to competing with Mott. So he says that he had a vision. I think he mentions about that, like when a senior executive from he said that maybe another 5 years down the line, I would grow more than the Walmart's shareholding. So and now he is almost there. So he had a vision and he worked hard for that. He never got distracted from his original objectives. And the way he has put across the entire concepts about business, about even he brought about the philosophies of Tai Chi in it, and the way his conversation was pepped up with a lot of small bits of humor, small bits of advices to the young crowd, to the young people whom he says that risk taking should be done, and how he intends to see his organization another 15 years down the line is like super. So I really enjoyed this talk, and I think Jack is one of those inspiring speakers. Thanks.
Excellent. Yes, Julie, do you have any comments on Jack Ma's speech?
Thanks, Jay. I'm having a dance with my muting today. Yes, I really appreciate you introduced this speech to me, and I agree that Jack is a great speaker and he's consistent. And Letitia, I really like it that you notice that he's crazy, the humor he used when he says he's crazy and not stupid. And so in that sense and in many other incidents there, I think Jack presented himself as a maverick, right? He's innovative, he thinks beyond the outside the envelope, and he thinks all things are possible. I think so that's how he presented himself. In terms of his company, he presented it as a service. And the key element that he provided was to create trust, because Chinese people were so insular, and the way they conducted business was basically what he calls guanxi, which is like relationship, right? And how he did develop that in a new technology. And for I think in terms of his vision for the company, he took us to a place where Alibaba is not just an organization for China. What he said was, we are an internet company for global small businesses that works around the world. And he gave an example of how small businesses can use this platform for the consumers in Argentina to purchase goods in Norway. So in the speech, which is, I guess, to Davos, where it's for young people, he transmitted the message of who he is, what his company has done, how his company is going to go forward. On top of it, he had a very personal message to the young people, which is, don't give up. There are many incidences where he says, don't give up. I didn't give up. I overcame this obstacle and that obstacle. And the second message he has is, I think that's very relevant today, is be in love with your government. Take good care of your government, but don't go into bed with them. He says, don't marry them. So there's a relationship and there are boundaries in business. And thirdly, I think in view of his maturity, he says, when I was young, I thought all things are possible. All things are possible, but it's constrained by the needs of your customers, the needs of your shareholders, the needs of your government. So he now understands the nature of boundaries. And so those are the lessons I think he wanted to transmit, and how he positions himself and his company. So I thought it was a great speech.
Yeah, Julie, those are excellent point. You know, one of the things that Jack, I mean, you know, I don't know anybody from Alibaba except Jack Ma, right? And this is a big company. There are, I think he mentioned, I don't know the number, maybe you have it, there are 30,000 or 50,000 employees, but all I know is Jack Ma. So Jack Ma is a brand, okay? He's a brand. If you take Jack Ma away, then I don't know what Alibaba is. So he himself is valued. And there was something he said I thought was kind of interesting, and I'm sure you all picked this up. He said that when you make, I think it came at the end, that when you make $1 million, that's yours, right? When you make $1 million, that's yours. That's in your bank, and you're happy. Yeah, I'm a millionaire. Okay. Then he says that when you get to 10 million, all of a sudden you now have to start thinking about, how do I protect that? You have to develop this trust, all sorts of tax gimmick shelters and this, and that creates all sort of complexity. But then he said when you get to $1 billion, he said that's not your money, which I never really thought about this. He said that's the trust that people are giving you, that this is the trust we have. So that once you get to $1 billion, and he's right, he can't take that $1 billion out of Alibaba, otherwise the company would be essentially lose its value very quickly. You can't just it would affect the stock price. So I thought that was interesting right there. The one thing I'll mention that makes Jack Ma so effective, it's something we could learn from. He's very direct. And Julie just pointed out one quote, he talks about rejection in a really honest way. And I guess, you know, when you're at 25 billion, it's you can joke about it. But if you go through his life, he's been rejected over and over and over again. He didn't get into Harvard. He kept on applying. He even mentions how he couldn't even get a job at KFC. There were like 24 people that applied. 23 got the job. He was the only one that didn't get it. He couldn't even become a policeman. 5 people applied. 4 got it. He was the one who didn't get it. And he keeps using these things that are very direct that you can understand. He said you can't win the world by talking. That's direct. And if you notice that one of his idol is Forrest Gump, which is kind of interesting, right? That and he really looks up to, this is his inspiration, Forrest Gump movie. I don't know if you have seen that movie, and he draws a lot of his strength from that movie. He relates to Forrest Gump. He said, that's me. That's when you see Jack Ma, the person who's always trying to struggle against odds. He views himself as Forrest Gump, that people are always going to underestimate him. And I thought that was really, really interesting, the way he draws that analogy between his life and Forrest Gump. He kind of views himself as the Chinese Forrest Gump. And you need that, right? You need to have that that kind of metaphor. And that another quote that he says is that, like what Julie just mentioned, be in love with the government, but don't marry them. Anybody can understand that. So he keeps that throughout his speech. He's very direct, very simple, yet he's making some really important points there that anybody can understand. And that's something I think we can all take away. Any closing thoughts, Julie and Latesh, on Jack Ma's speech before we close this session out? Go ahead.
No, thank you. This was very interesting and informative at the same time.
Yeah, Latesh, any closing thoughts, any last thoughts on Jack Ma's speech? What did you take away?
It was an eye-opener for me. Jack Ma has been a charismatic leader, so this was the first time that I heard this particular talk. So it was fantastic.
Okay, Latesh, thanks a lot. So at this point, we're going to close out this session on Jack Ma. I'll provide all the links. I strongly urge you all to view this speech by Jack Ma. You will understand how this chairman of a company, this leader, this business leader, is able to communicate so effectively. And it's something we could all do it in our lives, whether it's in business or in social situations or any other situations we find ourselves in. So at this point, I'm going to close out the session, and I'll take a brief pause, and then we'll have the parting thoughts. Okay, so at this point, we're done with all the three segments. I'll just leave it up to you. Julie, do you want to give your closing thoughts and how somebody can reach you if they want to contact you for anything regarding some of the work you're doing with mindfulness and also the community that you have? So,
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jay. Yeah, you can reach me at julieclw999 at gmail.com for more information. Again, that's JULIE, C as in Charlie, L as in Lady, W as in Water, and that's 39 at gmail.com. And also, I frequently check the Google community that Jay posts these events on, which is Jay will say it, and I will check those posts as well. Thank
you. Latesh, any closing thoughts? And if somebody wants to reach out to you, how can they? I'll include all this in the email that I send out in the announcement on the community.
Sure. I can be reached on my email, but my name is too long, so that would hijack the entire session time. So I would say you can find me on LinkedIn. You can just search with my name, LATHESH, L for London, A for Apple, T for Tom, H for Harry, E for Eagle, S for Sam, and H for Harry, Latesh. I don't think there are many Latesh out there, so you can immediately catch me on LinkedIn and we can stay connected. Thanks, Jay.
Right. So if anybody wants to reach out to Latesh, it's Latesh Balakrishna. Is that correct? Latesh Balakrishna.
That's right.
Yeah, Latesh Balakrishna. Yeah, reach out to him if you have any questions about stage gates or something. He's an expert on that. So at this point, yeah. So let me just. I'll include all this information. This community we have is introduction to public speaking. It's a cohort. If you have given speeches and you would like to be part of this community, send me an email at JAYOZA, Z as in zebra, A as in apple, at 5 tool, TOOL, group, GROUP.com. And we can certainly include you in this group. And if there's a speech out there that you're about to give live and you want some feedback from us, we'd be certainly happy to squeeze you into one of segment number 2. Okay? So at this point, we are done. And again, thank you for watching. And as usual, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on how we can make this better and make it valuable to you, please let us know. This is essentially our show. So anything that you can tell us, it will help us make it better. Thank you, Julie and Latesh, and we'll see you next week.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Enjoy the rest of the day, guys.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Latish. Thanks,
Bye.
Jay. Bye.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.